can eat, you have to listen to a sermon. I'm going to read a little something I wrote in an essay. In my 3/4 century of stupid stunts, I've had enough near-death experiences that I've accepted the fact that I'm going to die someday. I'm not too bothered by it. There is a beginning and end of all life, and to all human endeavors. Species evolve and die off. Empires rise and break apart. Businesses grow and fold. There are no exceptions. I'm okay with all that, yet it pains me to bear witness to the 6th great extinction, where we humans are directly responsible for the extinction of so many wonderful creatures and invaluable indigenous cultures. It saddens me to observe the plight of our own species. We appear to be incapable of solving our problems. So right now, we are using up the resources of 1.5 planets worldwide. In another 35 years, it will be between 3 to 5 planets. That's hardly sustainable. The world economy that's based on consuming and destroying natural resources is bound to crash. The natural world is already crashing, beginning with the extinction of the large mammals, like the elephants, the rhinoceros, polar bears, and you know what? We're also a large mammal. So who's responsible for destroying our home planet? Is it the multinational corporations? Is it the politicians? I would argue that the corporations are only making and selling what we ask them to do. We elect the politicians and we allow them to stay in power. They are a reflection of who we have become. So who are we? We're no longer called citizens, we're called consumers. That's who we are. The stock market goes up and down according to our level of confidence. What is a consumer? In the dictionary, a consumer is one who uses up, who destroys. So what would an economy look like that doesn't destroy the planet? We know it can't be based on ever-increasing consumption and growth. But if we all cut back on our consuming, what's going to happen to the economy? Well, of course it's going to crash. But it's going to crash anyway, because it's so unsustainable. Well, I don't have an answer. I only have a feeling that if we are to have a responsible economy, it would be based around one word, which is simplicity. I've always believed that the way to master any craft or art or sport or business is through simplicity. You know, the illustrator becomes an artist when he can communicate the same feeling with fewer brush strokes. The writer with fewer words. The mountain climber with fewer equipment. You know, the hunter starts hunting a deer with a high-powered rifle and a telescope and driving around in a car until he sees a deer, and then he shoots it from 300 meters away. And then he evolves into, well, that was too easy, so then he becomes a bow hunter with a bow and arrow. And then that becomes too easy. And then I know a guy who hunts deer with a spear, like the caveman. He dresses himself like a deer and walks up to a deer and spears it. Simpler and simpler. So, a professor at the University of Montana in the States wrote a book about consuming. And he said that if you want, in brief, it says, if you want to be healthy, you only have to spend 10% of what you spend now on food. If you want to live in a comfortable home, you only have to spend 10% of what most people spend. If you want to be clothed adequately, still only 10%. So the other 90% that we're spending is unnecessary. So what does that mean for my own company that's making all this clothing? How can we become more responsible? I've always believed that there's only one way to lead, and that's by example. And 2 years ago, we ran an advertisement in the New Yorker, in the New York Times, a full-page advertisement. And it had a photograph of a jacket, one of our most popular jackets, and it said, "Don't buy this jacket." And it caused quite a stir in the advertising world. And in the small print, it said, "Don't buy this jacket without thinking twice. Do you really need it, or are you just bored and just want to go out and buy something?" So we decided to make a contract with our customers, and we were asking them to think twice before they buy anything. And if they do decide that they need a jacket from us, we're asking them to try to buy one that is multifunctional. So don't buy a ski jacket that sits in the closet 10 months a year and only can be used for skiing. Buy a jacket that you can use for skiing, you can use for fishing, you can use on top of your suit in the city, in a rainstorm, multifunctional, so that you only buy one. So that means also buying the very, very best quality. Someone said, poor people can't afford bad quality. So buy less, but buy the very best so that it lasts a long, long time. In return, we promise that we will make that jacket in the most responsible way that we can. So we will follow our trail of manufacturing all the way to the farmer or whatever, and make sure that we are making decisions based on being the most responsible that we can. And if you buy that jacket from us rather than somebody else, well, thank you. If anything goes wrong with that jacket, if something breaks, we promise to repair it. And in fact, we're coming out with some videos that show how to repair things yourself. And so, if you have a jacket and you outgrow it, you get too fat, or even if you're just tired of the color, we will help you sell that jacket. So whether it's being sold on eBay or in our own stores or whatever, we're going to set up a way that we will help you sell that jacket to someone else rather than throw it away. or rather than just have it sit in your closet and not being used. When that jacket is finally completely worn out, you can give it back to us, and we will recycle it into more jackets. So that means that we are accepting ownership of that jacket. Even though we sold it to you, we still feel like it's our jacket, and it's our responsibility to close the loop on consuming and discarding. So it's going to be consuming and recycling and consume again. I think that's what we are going to try to do. And what I'd like to do is show you a film about some people that are living a simple life and their relationship with their clothes. So then I'll speak again afterwards. Now, I think the message is that if we have to go back to a simple life, whether we're forced to or whether we choose to, it won't be an impoverished life. I think rather a simpler life, can lead to a richer and more satisfying way of living. And I think looking around the world, it's already happening. I think a lot of young people are deciding to go back to that simple life. I know many young people are becoming organic farmers with very small little farms. Some of them are plowing with horses. I mean, how much more satisfying is it to have a perfectly trained horse pulling a plow than sitting on top of a tractor? And that's the good news. I think there is a trend. I know in the States, one of the biggest fashion things is to wear your parents' old Patagonia stuff. The older, the better. It's become cool. Fashion is a very powerful force in society. And, right now, you're being pushed to buy jeans that are already full of holes, right? Brand new, already. And that's the cool thing. But what if we made it cool to wear jeans full of patches? It'd be a change in society, wouldn't it? So I think we have time. I'm gonna open this up to some questions. I gave you plenty of ammunition.
¿Cómo es la política de trabajo con las personas que trabajan en la empresa de Patagonia? Sus empleados, digamos, ¿no? ¿Cómo son las relaciones? ¿Cómo crearon esa cultura hacia el consumidor, pero internamente tiene una cultura del mismo estilo?
Well, I never wanted to be a businessman, so I prefer to work with friends. And, when we have a job opening at Patagonia in the States, we have an average of 900 people apply for the job. So we can pick through a lot of people. And the final question for me is, do I want to go to dinner with this person? And if I don't, they don't get hired. And also, we try to hire very, very independent people. In fact, I had a psychologist do a study on our employees, and he said, look, I have to tell you, your employees are so independent that they would be unemployable in any other company. But the key to leading independent people is consensus, not compromise. The politicians work on compromise. which means they never solve the problem. They're always cutting the baby in half, like Solomon. And consensus, to get a group of very independent people to all move in one direction, means they all have to agree. And so in native societies in the States, in the Indian societies, the chief was not the richest person in the village. The chief was the best orator, the best speaker, because all decisions were made by consensus. And so that's what you have to do. If you have an employee that doesn't believe in the direction that you're going, he's going to do a passive-aggressive response, and it doesn't work. So that's the key to managing very independent people. Right here. You know, our mission statement, the last part of our mission statement, is basically that we exist to influence other companies to do the right thing. And that's happening. There's, big multinational corporations, Unilever and Google, and they're all greening their supply chain. They're all becoming more responsible. But at the same time, we're still losing the fight. And that's because of the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, and that's called growth. So you have McDonald's, which is slowly working on making healthier food, but at the same time, they're advertising to children to get them hooked on fast food. And so, even though each company is trying to do the right thing, we're still losing it. And the only solution for stopping this growth or slowing it down is for all of us to just say, we're not going to buy those things. Go back to a simple life. We're addicts. If you want to stop the oil companies from polluting the Amazon and Africa, and we have to stop buying their product. As long as we tell them to make things as cheap as possible, they will continue doing so. Well, that's okay with me. I never wanted to be a businessman. Yeah, unfortunately, that jacket that we had on the cover of that advertisement, we sold more jackets than you can believe. But what we did is we stole business from the competition. So, my spin on being in business, the way I rationalize it, is if I can make a polo shirt and make it more responsible, and then a Wilson polo shirt, then that's better. That's why I stay in business.
Sí.
Surprised about, thanks. I was a little surprised about reading it was made in China. I'm pretty sure that Patagonia has a good answer for why do you choose to outsource instead of producing in your backyard in California.
We don't own any of our manufacturing, and in the States, there's no more manufacturing in the States. The whole economy is based on service economy. No one sews in the States. There's no factories. It's all overseas. And we manufacture in China because it's the highest quality sewing in the world. We buy all our fabrics from the Orient because America doesn't make fabric anymore, especially the very high technological fabrics that we require. I mean, we've tried to go to fabric mills in the States and ask them to work on futuristic fabrics, and they refuse. They're only interested in making millions of yards of denim. And so the highest quality sewing is in China, and that's, we're one world now. Chinese are people too. And I wish we could manufacture locally. Personally, I try to eat local food, but I drink globally. I don't care much for California wines. One more question.
Todos sabemos de su escalada al Fitzroy en 1968, probablemente su más famosa escalada. Es verdad que llegó al mundo de la escalada después de dedicarse a criar halcones para cazar.
Yeah, when I was 12 to 18 years old, I was interested in falconry, hunting with raptors. And talk about a simple way to hunt. This is very simple, but it's the most elegant way. And I've been a student of Zen philosophy all my life, and one of the first lessons I learned is that when a 12-year-old has to go and climb down to or trap a wild falcon or a hawk and train it, the first thing that you do is you put it on your arm with the leashes, and it flies off, and you put it back on and it flies off. And you keep it on your arm until it falls asleep. And that can go all night long. So for a 12-year-old to do that, and also to train a wild falcon, you can't say bad dog, like you can to your dog. It all has to be positive reinforcement. And so the Zen master would say, who's getting trained here anyway? It's a little Zen lesson for me. And I've used that lesson in business. And, from falconry, I learned mountain climbing. But I use the Zen in business because if you ask me what our sales were last year or our profit, what's going to be our profit this year? I don't even know. I forgot. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the process of business. And if the process is going right, the profits happen. And it's a lesson I learned in climbing. I climbed in Yosemite Valley, 10-day routes, living on the wall. Get to the top, there's nothing there. It's flat. So the lesson is, what's important is how you climbed. And that applies to business. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming here, and for those of you that are customers of ours, thank you very much, and I promise that we'll do everything we can to not let you down. Thank you very much.